Yeah, hello and welcome, very warm welcome from my side to you. Today I like to talk about the GY LS300, our super 35mm large sensor camcorder. Well, first of all, you see the picture here on top. That's our camcorder. We will see it later on physical here on the table. And well, first of all, let's have a quick design overview of that one. Normally, this is our first large sensor format camera, and we were thinking which way we do it, like a DLSR format or shoulder camcorder format. But at the end of the day, we make the decision to take our regular camcorder design, which we use from the GY-HM200 or GY-HM150, the previous model. So our idea was to make a super 35mm exchangeable lens system, which is very handy, very comfortable for your cases, and very nice on the traveling. So we talked with some producers and they say, well, I need this camera or a second camera in this style, where I can use that for the creative part of doing my shootings. And that's the one important point for today's issues. This seminar or this webinar today is actually two parts. Today I make a quick overview. Well, it means quick, there is a lot of things to look at. A quick overview on the camcorder itself. And tomorrow maybe that's the even more interesting part for the optics you can use, and what is the tricky things on the optics, and what can you do with the optics, and what bandwidth you have the optics. And that's also a basic seminar regarding for the optics, field of view, for example, variable scan mapping, which we built in this camcorder, which is very unique, and what you can do with it, not only to adapt the lenses, there is also some other tricky shots what you can do with it. So tomorrow at the same time we're talking then about the lens part. And coming back to the design format, and frankly speaking, this is a creative camera because it uses the large sensor format, which allows you to do the typical shot, which we call bulky format, which you, for example, two people are conversation, one is sharp, the other one is unsharp, or you have these nice shots where the background lighting, it's unsharp, and you put your items into the foreground because you're working with the focus item and the focal length of focal view to get your picture in the right position as you like to do it in a creative way, which you not can do with a small sensor. Of course you can do, but then you need a very long distance from the object to the camcorder to create equal imaging. However, such a camera is really for the people who likes to work mainly in the manual operation, not the typical shootings within a full automatic mode. If you're searching in just a video camera to do normal standard video shots, I recommend the GY-HM200 or HM170 if you don't need IP networks. Or the next level of camcorder from our portfolio is the GY-HM600 or GY-HM650. This is really for the creative part, and this is a one clear message you should take it. If you want to be creative, you already be creative, you want to work with different lenses, and you know how you're doing manual operation on the camcorder, then that's the right baby for you. And also, in this case, this camcorder has 4K capability up to 30p. For those people who want to try to work in 4K, but keep in mind you have a lot of data. Your NLE must be supported, or meanwhile all NLE will already do this. And that's also another option to be creative, especially if you create regular HD or 2K materials, because the 4K resolution allows you to do some image operation for your 2K project. Well, I talk always 2K because I talk with a lot of people say, oh yeah, we want to have 4K, but at the end of the day they're using HD, and take the 4K material and produce at the end of the day a normal HD source or 2K source, depending if you want to do that film-like style. Anyhow, let's look to the camcorder. When we when I say a manual operation, that's when I move away here. This is a typical picture what you see here. This is a full build-up unit. You know, here's the camcorder, small part, and you have the lens here. You have the rig. You have the manual control operation. This is really cinema-like operation with that camcorder. So let's have a look to the unit itself. So I go in the back here, and then we can have a overlook on the unit. First of all, and sorry when I not look directly into your face because this is a different view angle. I have my camcorder here. So let's look to the camcorder front itself, and let me open the dust cover. So what you can see here is the typical electronic support for a MFT sensor, MFT lens support in case of electrical support. There are some limitations, of course, and I will talk that tomorrow. But what we have here behind that is a Super 35mm lens, but we're using MFT mount here. And that's the first confusing, which you maybe think about it, because 99% of the people think, oh, this MFT mount is an MFT lens. No, that's not correct. It's not an MFT sensor in this case, because an MFT sensor is 30% smaller than the Super 35mm. We're using here a Super 35mm, don't worry, so you can use full format lenses, but we use a different mount. The reason for that mount is to give you an option to have a large bandwidth of optics, because the MFT mount has a very small distance and allowed us with a simple adaptation to use any other lenses as long as you get an adapter for it, and that's a bunch of it, and this is an item especially for tomorrow. So you will see tomorrow is an interesting day, all kind of the optics. So when we're looking a little bit on this way, you find here a small wheel, and I like to show you that when we move the moon, you can see there is some rotation inside, because this is also very unique. We have a built-in ND filter into that case, so if you have an optics, you not have to purchase the standard ND filters. Only when you do special shots, of course, then maybe you need some additional one. This ND filter has here the range of a quarter, 1/16 and 1/64 filter ratio. So just by turning around, you have the filter available. If you can see, this is a little part here in front, so for the lenses it's no problem, but maybe you take an adapter, and sometimes the adapters have some shoes below for to make it more stabilized. The shoe have to be removed in case of the adapter. This I will show you tomorrow, but this is no problem. This is only a few adapter like a Metabones where you remove 2 screws and then you can easily mount this. So, as you can see, we have a typical camcorder design on that Super 35mm camera, and we start with this bottom here on the lower end. This is our iris bottom, and there's also push bottom, which has the outer white balance. The iris bottom is selectable depending what you like to do. You like to have an iris control. Keep in mind, you use an external lens. Not all iris or all electronic lenses will support iris, or maybe incompatible, and then the iris will be open. Still, you can do some operation with such a lens, because you can switch it to shutter mode or outer exposure mode. So it's free selectable which mode you want to have on that wheel. There are also some preset bottoms here, like here, full auto, preset, or off. This is also depending on the lens which you use. And if there is a lens which support all electronics, and there's only a few, or you have some preset operations with the lens can do, like iris and focus, or you can set it completely off for a complete manual operation of the lens. And for example, you want to have everything controlled, shutter control, auto exposure control, then you switch it completely off. We have also, of course, focus assist. We have lots of standard tools, which are not all of them not mentioned in detail, so because this is standard on camcorders anyway. But what you can see here on the bottoms, and I will bring it a little bit up, just here. I'm going to do a little focus on that. Okay, here we are. So what we have here is, you see just the bottom, and behind the bottom you find a small number, like here, like the time code bottom here, number 2. number one. Number two, all the buttons which you find on the unit, we have these numbers, and of course, like the wheel in front, you can select with your own features. So if you don't want to have the focus assist here, you can select any other features which is available in the customs menu, and you can select it by your own. It's about 10 buttons which you can select freely by your own choice. You see here that hold. This is the left side and the right side of a built-in microphone. Of course, this has a handle with a full support of a shotgun microphone, which comes with this camcorder, and also you have two XLRs here. But in the case the handle will be removed, you still have microphones. And for removing this handle, I'm coming later to that point. It's also very interesting for special shots when you don't need the handle and you need more space of the camcorder. Let's move a little bit back. So when we looking to that area front, we have a typical iris selection, automatic and manual operation. Again, keep in mind, all these functions are related to a lens or not. So if you have an MFT lens which supports it, of course you're fine, you can use it. Otherwise you have manual operation on the lens. You have the typical gain settings, high, low and middle, and also I have some special news for you, for example for the people who wants to have gain or have ISO, and that you later on you will see in the setup. Okay, our white balance area, 3 positions, presetting A and B level. You can select them what you want, preset full auto or A full auto or B full auto, whatever you like. It's setable in the menu. We have the typical marker selection, auto exposure level, shutter, and the control for the shutter up down here. Here our slot indication, slot A and B. And typical on our camcorders, we have a dual encoding here, so we can record in a different kind of formats on that unit, which I see later. Let's open the unit. Here on top we have our power switch on off. We have the mute bottom here. Mute bottom selects record or playback. And of course we have our slots. Normally there's a dust cover here which we can open and close. And in the dust cover we have 2 slots, A and B. This allows, for example, serious recording, means you have 2 cards in it. Card number 1 will be used, and it switches automatically to camera to slot B. Meanwhile you can do a hot changing, swap it out, put another one in, and then it will be continuous recording. We have backup recording both at the same time, or we can do different kind of recording. For example, on card A you can do HD recording, on the card B you can do SD or a web format at the same time. By the way, this camera has also fully IP functions, which I come later to that point, and also it's possible to do recording here and at the same time you do IP function like live streaming, for example. Well, before we go ahead, let's have a look to the media. As I mentioned to you, this camcorder is also a 4K camcorder, and which kind of media I have to use. And I prepare here a small stand. Let's use this, and I show you here the media. For that one, here we are. Let's move them a little bit forward. So I guess that's quite nice to view. So in case of 4K media, you need a media which is reliability in case of writing speed. Well, our decision for that camcorder is we're using H.264 with 150 megabits. This compression rate in H.264 is very efficiency, much more efficiency than an MPEG-2 value. And that allows us also to take this kind of media, which you can find everywhere, in the store, in the supermarket, etc. And it's very easy to purchase them in case you lost one or you miss one. For example, you want to do more shootings, you can buy it for a real low end pricing. But there are some important points to know. Let me give you some basics for that phone. In case you have a DVD, everybody can understand when you have a DVD is a round plate and it circles. That means this media have different speed from the outside to the inner circle, because the outside has more speed, rotation speed, instead of the low end. That is logical because it's a circle outside inner circle have different speeds, as we know. And what happens this with a normal memory card, because it's memory. But here we have an equal thing, even it's not mechanical. So if we're writing data to this SD card, and that will be filled up and it will be shifted from one area register to the next register. So that means if the media is empty, then it's very fast in case of writing, but if the media gets full, it gets slower and slower and slower. And therefore we must take care that when we're writing with 150 megabit per second, that we have a card which gives some guarantee that the speed is not going under certain speed limits or registrations, whatever. In this case, you have a classification on the SD cards. Normally when you go to the web, you find the information about reading speed. So you get all the information, and the writing speed is, you must look to the details, because there you can see the writing speeds. Anyhow, the quality is one important point, and there is a measurement on these cards which guarantees a certain limit of writing speed, and that's the classification. So when we look into a standard card, SDHC or SDXC card, you find a number on that card. This is here the small number, class 10. And this is our recommendation in case you're working with HD, SD, HD. In case of SD, you can work also with a class 6, is still fast enough. But we recommend to use a class 10 as long you're working with our HD. And you also should take care that you have a brand name, like here Toshiba, Panasonic, Scandis, or something like that, and not the cheapest low end, because sometimes this come from somewhere, memory cards maybe not fulfill their regulations, even it's printed on. So in case of 4K recording, we need a different SD card, but also don't worry, this card is also viable in the market already right now. It's not a dedicated format, so really you can get it almost everywhere. And in that case, we need a better, higher speed card. And you can see that here by this mark, SDHC1 U3, or sometimes a 10 and a U3. Because the E, SDHCE, is meaning 10, like here. And then there is an additional number called U3. Well, normally we can say it's a class 13 card, but it's not mentioned like this. So they changed the type, SDHC U3, also SDHC1 U3, and that is our indication that this card is speedy enough. So look about the detail on the card and find that U3 with a U1 U3 or class 10 U3, this information. This is important. Well, let me give you an example. There are also, you can see here's written this is not the writing speed, this is the reading speed, 80 megabyte per second. You find this class in different classification. I'll give you an example, 32 gigabyte, not the 61. Let's say 32 gigabyte. You can find that with a writing speed, reading speed about 60 megabyte. You can get the same card with 80 megabyte. You can get the same card with 120 megabyte or with 200 megabyte per second as reading speed. But the price is different. It starts from, let's say, €35 up to 150 euro. Don't worry. You don't need these high-speed classes. We're talking about megabit here. So the lowest end card with that classification and a brand name, this is good enough. So you can purchase the €35 card and you're done. You're fine. You don't need this very expensive card. It's not needed for that kind of recording. Well, when we're looking to the back side, and just a simple overview for the back side here, camcorder, and as you can see, they are totally identical here. The color has no meaning, so it's the same card, and it's fully compatible. You can use that also for your laptops or for your photos or whatever you want to do. The only item is the classification. So take care that you purchase the right one with the number here on for the 4K shooting. They are very safe, and if you have the pocket, my wife washed it, so no problem at all to use that. So that was some overview for the SD card. And when we're coming back to the recording here, to the camcorder, like here. So we have to talk about the codecs which we use on that camcorder, and the codecs on that camcorder here in the recording is MPEG-4 ABC H.264 for the 4K recording, for the HD recording, and for the SD recording, and ABC HD recording for HD and SD. Well, the container format is MOV H.264 and MTS, which is ABC HD format. So if you want to have more details, okay, please download our leaflet on the website and you can see details about it. 4K recording is going from 24p, 25p, 30p, and HD recording goes up to 60p, 50p of course, 60p, with H.264 4:2 recording. And keep in mind the H.264 in 4:2 with 50 megabit is much more efficient than an MPEG-2 equal recording, because this is very strong algorithm than when the signal gets critical. So that's the recording mode and the dual encoding, which I already mentioned. We have furthermore bottoms here is a slot select in which one you want the recording if you do a single recording. The low lux area here gives you additional light sensitivity. The total light sensitivity of the Super 35mm is around about f8. For that people working in, you know what is the f number in case of sensitivity is f8. And you have additional low lux feature which you can select 30 dB or 36 dB. Of course, it's picture get noisy, but it's very low light shooting will be possible. You have also our clip review bottoms, zebra bottoms. Very important is the display bottom here, and maybe I'll give you a quick shot to that. When we look to the display bottom, when I change the display item here, so you can see I can switch off my information or only a part of the information, or include my recording times and my resolution setups. The next bottom is the status bottom. The status bottom is, from my point of view, the most interesting bottom in case you're doing your shooting and you're not sure what I have set up in my camcorder. So again, let's have a look to the status bottom. So we press it. You get all your network informations. You can get your planning data because the camcorder can hold metadata. You can select up where is your video output setting in case, oh, I get no picture at the output. Here's a quick information what you have done with your setups. You can get a graphical output information for the audio in and outs. You can see what bottoms with what function you have used. So for example, if you change the user bottom 1, which is our focus assist, you want to change that, you can go into that and change another function like expanded focus or live streaming at that bottom. And then you have all your camera settings. Camera 1 and gives you a nice overview about your recording format, camera A, camera B, which kind of recording you want to go. And network of operation, of course, you can see your IP addresses and what is your logins, etc. So this status bottom is that important information. Well, let's turn a little bit around. We have our viewfinder in the back. You can move that up and different position. There is also here a mark for the dioptrine setup, for the lens setup on the viewfinder. We have our battery slot here. It's using IDX batteries. You get 2 different batteries for that in 2 different power consumptions mode. I prefer the larger one, of course. That gives you also an X-step output for additional items like an additional lamp, etc. We have outputs here under the rubber. The rubber is just to secure regarding dusk. We have additional output here, which is called the EV output. This is a regular composite output. In the case you're somewhere and you not have a flat display which have HDMI, and you have a normal monitor and you need composite output. Of course, this cable comes not with the camcorder. It's regular in the market. You get an AV mini jack cable right into the electronics store. There is a headphone output, and there we have also an external audio 3.5mm stereo input. This is an additional to the XLR inputs. You have an additional auxiliary output, like for a wireless microphone, receiver, etc., or whatever you want to support to it. We have also a standard cable remote, which is here. It's a serial protocol, or it's LAN compatible, and we have our DC output. When you go around to the camcorder, I'll turn it a little bit. We come into the normal record bottom, and here on the top, and this is behind normally this rubber. This is normally closed. Like that, it's closed. You can open it, and that is our IP connection. So this is our USB host. And why we're using USB host here is we don't like to use built-in adapters like Wi-Fi adapters or something else, because there is a reason you can use lots of them for a different operation. And then turn a little bit the camera away, and then let's have a look to the adapters which we have. Here, for example, I have a 3G LTE adapter, and simply you can connect that to the camcorder here on the USB host. You can do also an extension if you don't want it near your head. You can use a small extension cable and can put it somewhere else. Well, it's up to you. Anyhow, there's a lot of adapters which support it. Of course, all these adapters needs drivers. And the drivers, if, for example, you use that for your laptop, you have to install the drivers. The same here for the camcorder, but the camcorder is not a PC, so you cannot install it. So we will do this, and there is a dedicated list which you get on our support site, which kind of dongle for 3G LTE, depending on the country, we already support. However, if you find a country where the dongle is not listed, but the dongle is somewhere else listed, then there's almost 95% chance that the dongle will work. In the case it's not registered, there is an option you can send us the dongle, and maybe we do an implementation. But it's important, especially for GSM dongle, and I will zoom that up. So, and here is one item that's very important. We're supporting UI dongles, and I hope it's possible to see because it's white. Yeah, maybe there. Okay, here. Let me try. Okay, there we are. So on the dongle there must be a mention. I'm not interested in the speed stick LTE. What is important is who is the manufacturer, like UIY. This is the company which the driver chip, which we need to support, and we need the type, which you can see here. So it's UYE389, or sometimes some dongles will not have this information on the backside, and I open here the SIM card slot, and also sometimes depending on the dongle you find additional information into the SIM card slots, which is over here. Let me do a little bit reduce here. So for example here you can see E39AU-15. This information is important, which you have to compare to your list. Another item is we're using Wi-Fi dongles here. So for example, you can have a small one, you can use a larger one, and it's quite simple. You easily put that here to the dongle, and now your camcorder is ready to go to any network connection which is Wi-Fi based. And depending on this adapter, you can use 2.4 gigahertz or you can use 5 gigahertz even with this camcorder. And depending on the size, most people like to have small ones, but keep in mind the small ones there's a range limit, and based on the aerial system. A larger one have better aerials and have more distance. So it's up to you. But also this kind of adapters needs to have a driver, and also we have a list For Wi-Fi dongles, please have a look to that the Wi-Fi dongle is registered, otherwise it will not work. Another option for the network capability is to use a CAT45 adapter like here. Also this one is very simple, connected to the USB hos, and then you have a CAT45 adaptation from the camcorder to here. Why cable network? Cable network could be very interesting for a lot of things on that camcorder. For example, this camcorder can have a live transmission in UDP up to 12 megabits per second in 1080i. So if you have anywhere a cable problem, you can go over an existing network, for example, from one building to the other building, if there is a network that exists, and you can get a very high resolution when you have an encoder at the other side, a decoder at the and in the other side, to get your 1080i pictures back. Anyhow, all the live streaming is maximum resolution 1920 1080. You can use SD, you can use 720p, you can use a proxy file with 480 pixels or a proxy file with 960 pixels. So all this can go out over this network. But the network is not only for live streaming, it's also for remote control. So a cable network could be used if the camera, you have more than camera setups and you want to control that from a certain place. Simple by a browser, no application is needed. You can open the browser 5-6 times and you can control 5-6 camera at once over the IP network. Therefore, such a cable interface could be very useful because it's very fast and very quick. Of course, you can use also that on the Wi-Fi network. That's no limitation. This is only the connection. So that's the benefit when you have a USB port, so you not have built-in tools in here, so you can select what's available in the market, and you also can easily upgrade to new upcoming network capabilities. So that's the network port. When we turn the camera a little bit around here, we have another record bottom. Here we are. So, and this network bottom, what we have, this is record 7. This is an additional record bottom, and you see there's also a small number. So this is, for example, very useful for the people who want to do live streaming, because live streaming and recording is a total independent. So that means we can start the recording and we can start the live streaming whenever we like to do it. So, for example, starting the recording, starting later the live stream, stopping the recording, stopping the live stream somewhere else. So that can be changed. Another one is we have the rocker level here. This is for the zoom operation. As I told you before, there's only a limited of lens in the moment, electronic lenses, so this camcorder is more for the manual operation at the lenses. But I must say, frankly speaking, you really not use that. But we do a clever thing with that one. So in the case of this rocker level, we can you can change that from zoom operation to focus operation, because there are more lenses which have not a power zoom, but they have focus control, and you can very nicely use that as a focus control. It's easily by software possible to change from zoom to focus. Another button which you find here is the expanded focus, and especially in case of 4K shooting could be a very interesting item, because it zooms up your picture and allows you to do a better focusing. This has also different modes. For example, permanently, you push it and it zooms up, or you push it and you push the next time, also on and off, or you have a limited time, you push it, it's for 3 seconds on and then it's go back. I show you later that on the screen, this kind of functions. Okay, let's go a little bit more in the front. We have another item here in the front, which you can see is our video output. The camcorder has a 3G SDI output here. So we have a 1080 up to 1080p, 50 or 60p or 1080i or SDI output here. We have also an HDMI output in case you want to do a 4K shooting and you want to use the live picture here, live output or playback output. It's HDMI 1.4a, so it's 4K 30p output to a display. Keep in mind, everybody talking about 2.0, but 2.0 really is not exists in that words, is a modified 1.4a. Anyway, so that's fully supported the 4K output to displays or any other hardware which you like to use. In case of 4K shooting or in case of 4K AA mode, you get 4K output here and you get a downscaled HD picture here on the SDI output. At the same time, it's depending on, of course, about your setups. We have an additional USB port here, but this is a real USB port which controls, it's not a host, it controls the SD card. So in case you want to transfer the files to your PC and you not have an adapter for the SD cards, or your PC has not an SD card slot, so you can connect that here via the USB mini jack to the PC and pick up your files. Well, what left? Left is here on the front item the handle. And the handle, let me move to the handle here, and like this. Let's look to that. So under the dust cover here, we have our audio adjustments. As you can see, we can select internal, external input, audio input 1 and 2. We can use line sensitivity, microphone sensitivity. Of course, we support also phantom power, left and right. And here is our selection between auto and manual mode and your adjustment. Of course, I have a recommendation, especially today, if somebody used the camcorder and shooting, making music shooting, my recommendation is always use manual operation and use the levels here and do your setups for audio shooting in case you have live music. I know a lot of people using automatic mode. Of course, if you have a certain distance from the music, then it's fine, but when you with the camera, with the microphone very close to a speaker or very close to some of the instruments, it's totally peak over levels. Even you set up the limiters. I recommend, if you do that shooting, go to manual operation and use a headphone and check the audio level meter and do the manual settings. Of course, the automatically is fantastic, works fine, but all automatic give up if you have close to an instrument, and depending on the instrument you have very dynamic range and very peak levels. So I never will normally use, when I do shooting, and use an automatic mode. So I prefer to use manual, but of course it's up to you. But it's just a recommendation. On the other side of the handle, we find our XLR inputs here for the left and right. And on top of the handle, we have an additional rocker switch in case you have a zoom optic here, but this is not, this is just on and off. The rocker level here on the side is by pressing, you're changing the speed. And you can have fixed speeds here for this rocker level only. So for this rocker level only, and you have additional record bottom here. And of course the tele indication. Well, it could be useful that maybe you like to do special shots and you have not enough space and this is all too much. So then you can switch off the camcorder, wait until it's off. Then you're losing this screw here. So just the handle, you're losing it. Put it up slightly in the front and then you have your handle gone. There is no cabling, nothing. So you have it in your hand here. And it's maybe very good depending on the lens or what kind of shooting you like to do, and maybe it is disturbance of the handle, so it's very easy to remove. And you can see I have the handle here, everything is there. The only cable is here from the microphone, but not to the camcorder because we're using a special port here, and that's a digital connection. So only what you have to do is please switch off the camcorder before you do that. If you want to do it back, simply press it in, slide it in, the camera is there. It's finished, and then put the screw on again. So, and then you can switch on the camcorder, and the camcorder is back. By the way, and here are the internal microphones. So if you remove the handle, you still have built-in microphones. And these internal microphones are dedicated ones because it uses a special Dolby stereo wide angle processor. It's Dolby registered, so you have a good sound when you use the internal microphones. And you have the external audio options on the back side. Okay, that's the mechanical overview. Let's have a little bit, look a little bit about the electrical items, about the menu construction, and therefore let me allow to switch directly to the camcorder. Let's have a to the image here. and we have the camcorder functions which you see here on the screen. First of all, let's go to the recording mode which you find on the system. By the way, all our camcorders using the same menu style and the information style. So if you have an HM200, HM170, LS300, HM650, 600, 850, all have the same menu structure and file. So once you already use the GVC camcorder, so it's very easy to use that one. The only you have to learn the special items which is somewhere in the menu. And also keep in mind all these menus have also a favorite user menu. For example, when I press now the display menu, you can create your own user menu, and that's quite helpfully to put only the things in which you really need for your shots. So it's very simple to switch back to the main menu or to the user menu. When I go now back, you can see, and I switch it on, I also always my favorite menu here. It's my own design, which kind of function I want to have there. If I want to switch back, then we are here, and you see next time when I switch on, I have the normal system menu. Well, first of all, let's go to the system menu, where is our recording set, and we have here the special function of the variable scan mapping, which allows to do very dedicated lens setups, but this is the item for tomorrow, so I go in detail tomorrow with this function, and it's very, very interesting, very useful function. Let's the recording format which we have here. This is the HD format, and we can select the 4K. Again, when we switch to 4K here, we have maximum frame rate 30p, 25p, and 24p selection with 150 megabit per second. We have the HD format. We can select the QuickTime format or the AVC HD format, and we can of course change the resolution 1920, 1080, 1080 on 720p, and of course the frame rate. You know, my setup is here 60p because it's all my system here works on 60p because we're going here to the PC world for the live streaming, so I use 60p. Okay, we don't want to do a change here. Let's go to another format, is the SD, which we are using in QuickTime here, or we're going to HD plus web. So in this case, your record, for example, here 1920, 1080, and then you can use the B format, for example, web friendly, or you can use SD recording or a proxy file 480 pixels at the same time. So card A will be recording, for example, here 720p, and the other one will record 960 by 480. So that's the dual recording option. One thing is very important here for the setup, in case you want to do IP function like live streaming is limited to SD or HD recording. So if you change to HD plus web or you change to 4K, then you will have no IP function and no remote control in this mode, because we need all the hardware resources for the 4K operations. So streaming, in case, is in the world of HD as they possible, and all the IP functions are there. Okay. We have, of course, record modes here, which I mentioned before. We have you can select the pre-recording. The pre-recording is about 15 seconds in HD. We have also pre-recorded function for the 4K, but this in the pre-recording in 4K is only 5 seconds. Just for your technical understanding, if you use pre-recording, that is not going on your SD card. This is an internal memory, and the internal memory is permanently recorded, because otherwise it will be very stressfully when you do that on the media itself. So it's internal memory, is always written all the time, and when you start to push the recording, the last 4 seconds or 15 seconds, depending on your recording format, will be then transferred to the SD card. We have clip continuous, that is what I say, put it A. We have also frame recording, or we have also interval recording. You can do special shot time-lapse shots with the camcorder. So there are all the modes, and there you can set up the slot. You can do dual recording or backup recording on demand. So there is a lot of option which you can say, okay, I use a backup recording because I'm shooting very important content, make sure I want to have at the same time 2 SD cards with the same content. One I give to my colleague and he go and do the editing, and the other one I take myself as a backup, for example. We have also 4 GB spanning. So as regular from the system itself, if you use SDHC card, every 4 GB the file will be splitted to a new file. Don't worry, there's no loss of audio signal or video signal. It's fully, there's nothing lost, so it's fully one by one goes over. But if you use SDXC card, you can switch off this function, because SDXC card have a different format on the SD cards. So if you switch that on, you can create longer files than 4 GB, basically up to the maximum memory of your SD card. But normally I prefer to use that compatible node and say, okay, put that 4 GB spanning on. That means it's regular, every 4 GB it's stopped. You can use the audio setting, PCM. You have, there's a nice function where we have the timestamp. Timestamp could be very interesting for the people who are doing documentary with that, like shooting, natural shootings. You can have a timestamp and you can see to make safe in which area you shoot it and what time and date you shoot it. Of course, clip setting, clear planning metadata. So for example, if you have metadata in and you want to delete this metadata to create new ones, you can delete the metadata here. The media format, of course, we don't have to use that. We have setup files, so all your settings can be stored into the internal memory as well to the SD cards. And then another one, typical telelamps, etc. Language control is important. So what we, as the OSD on the camcorder, supports English, French, German, Italian, Espanol, and Russian, of course, and new, it's also Turkey language is supported on the OSD. The next point is the network feature general on, and of course we have our settings here. We have the web settings. The web settings is the web browser. We have a full remote control unit into that camcorder, and it's really a complex remote controller, which I can't show you here for the setup. The time will be too short. This can we do another 4 hours just for the IP functionalities. Shortly to say, this is a web browser. You don't need to have any apps. So just the browser is enough. So you can use an Apple system, you can use an Android system, you can use a Windows system. It doesn't matter, as long as you get an IP connection directly to the camcorder, and you can do a full remote control. You get even a live picture in case you're working alone and you want to have a live monitoring. You get a live picture on your browser. You can do some setups on the camcorder. You can do the start-stops. You can have furthermore a complex control of the auto exposure, of the white balance. We have even white paint in it. You can stop the live streaming. It's lots of things, and we have a dedicated handbook for this one. So this is the most effective remote control system which is today in the market. You find nowhere else such complex remote control, and you can use it several times. Of course, not for the camcorder, but if you have 2-3 camcorders, you simply can open your browser 2-3 times, and you have basically a studio controller, very easy made without any additional cost, just by the browsers. So it's very simple to use. Of course, I mentioned to you we have live streaming on that camcorder. When you go to the live streaming, and there is something really new for the live streaming services, because we have here a streaming server setup which allows you to have 4 different setups. These 4 different setups could be very useful in case where you want to stream. For example, you want to do a local network stream with UDP protocol, or you want to create a Ustream channel, and you say that's my documentary or my music channel, whatever, and you do the shots. You can set up it here, and tomorrow you say this goes to my news channel, which is also on Ustream, but it's a different address which you have to set up. You can store it here. Maximum 4 addresses will be possible to store with your main logins, like UDP, what you can see here, UDP, TCP, RTSP, and 6E and Rtmp. Well, some special words for the 6E protocol. 6E protocol is really for the broadcasters, It's the only protocol at the moment which supports up to 30% package loss, and still you can do live streaming, but then you need to use the 6E Cloud servicing. What is brand new is the Rtmp, and that's the most interest and most requests which we had in the past for our camcorders to go directly to YouTube or to Ustream. And this is now possible with the Rtmp protocol. You can easily set up the camcorder and you go directly to your own channel, to the favorite like YouTube or Ustream. And if you are already a customer from us and you have an HM650 or 850, 890, at that moment you cannot go to this Rtmp protocol. But don't worry, you will get an update soon, around about end of May, beginning of June. We will support you with an update that you also can do this Rtmp streaming with your existing camcorder. You can see when you have a camcorder from us, you always have a benefit because we're working on that, then the camcorder is still interesting for you and not have to purchase a new one. So here's all your setups, and here, for example, if you use Rtmp, you have to input your destination address or you have to input your stream key. In case of Ustream, for example, is a very long address, could be 50 characters or more, and even the key is very long, so it takes a time to input that. But once you have a remote connection to that, and I'm writing a handbook for this, so it's very easy. You can use drag and drop to the remote control section, and then it's edited here very quickly. Again, I cannot show it as today because this is another item and takes a long time, but I will support you with a handbook for this one very shortly. So basically, it's easy one time you understood how the IP functionality works. So 4 setups we have. What you not can store, because this is related to the network services, there's the quality of service. That means how good is my network connection, and then you have to set up the resolutions and the bit and the frame rates. And there's a bunch of frame rates, and I'll give you a quick overview here on that screen. Of course, the letters are very small. Sorry, because we support the most advanced streaming support into a camcorder. You can look around in the market, even there are new cameras, you can see none of them supports this kind of resolution and option for live streaming. We can start from 200 kilobits per second to use a Beacon terminal satellite connection, which only have around about 300 kilobit uplink. So you can start to do uplink with that camcorders. And we can go up to 12 megabits here per second, depending on UDP, and even the 6E protocol goes up to 5 megabit per second streaming. And of course, it's depending on the ratio here. And this is here just an overview how many selections you have into the camcorder depending on the streaming protocol. There's no one else who have this capability in the market. Well, let's go back to the unit, and we go out of that. We have our connection set up here. There is a wizard. That works same. For example, if you have a Wi-Fi dongle or a 3G dongle, that works almost similar like you do your network connection with your smartphone. You can load the data if it already exists, or you can store the data, for example, here for T-Mobile or for Vodafone, and you can change the name, or for Wi-Fi, which I did here, so the data are stored there. Metadata server is for metadata. All these camcorders can support metadata, and if that is an FTP protocol, so if somebody is in the office and prepare your metadata, the camera can pick up the metadata and bring it to the camcorder. As well, you can use the remote control, and you can do your own metadata editing on your smartphone. Both options you have. Clip server is also an FTP transfer. That means if your shootings are ready, you can transfer the FTP files to your station, and also you can clip and cut the files. So for example, you have a long shot and you want to have only a short shot to send it to the station. You can do that into the camcorder with clip cutter in that mode, and you transfer the files to your station via FTP. And FTP don't care which kind of resolution, if that's 4K resolution, if there's HD resolution, it's don't mind. Basically, you can transfer the file if you want. of course, date and time zone setup, and system information. This system information is always useful, especially in case of which firmware you have. This is at the moment the actual firmware 102, which you see on the upper area. So, are the camera functions? Let's go have a smart view on this one. Flicker correction is important depending on the lighting. You know, I use 60p. If you use 50p, your lighting, you can do a flicker correction. There's a shutter setup in step or variable. We have exposure speed, fast and low, and the gains, etc. I'm not going into all the details, but it will take too long. So, smooth transition is very useful because if the gain or the ISO is changed, then it's not flashing up, so it goes smoothly. And of course, full auto wide setting up, the gain setups, zoom handle speed. And here is our iris deal, which you have seen before when we're looking into the camcorder. This is our iris deal, here, this wheel here in front, and we can change that to shutter or to exposure level, so depending on which iris we use. One important information for the iris control, and this is also something which you have to learn. If you have a regular video lens, the iris is very smooth, but if you use a lens which is from your photograph device, then the iris is not going smooth. The iris is going one step to another step, one stop to another stop. So it's not good like in the video area that it goes very smooth. So therefore you can work with shutter in combination with that. But this is something to learn. There's nothing wrong when you change the iris and suddenly it jumps up, because this is typical your mechanical lens or your electronic lens, which works in the same style like a mechanical operation. Here's our change for the grip zoom. Again, when I show that here, that is our rocker level here. What I mentioned before, maybe you have a lens which has no zoom control, but it has focus control, so you can go here and change from grip zoom to focus control. It's very easy to do that. User switch setting is important because all the buttons which I mentioned before, again, just to remember, all the buttons which you have here, and have a small number here or here on the sides, we've had numbers. You can select by your own setups, easily to change, go in, and now my focus assist has now the marker functions, or back to the focus assist, or anything else which I like to have on this item. When we scroll down, we have also a preset option for the expanded focus, which I show you later, but here we have the choice for this expanded focus to say toggle mode. That means I press, it's on, press again, it's off. The momentary mode is it will be on as long I press the bottom, and limited time means I press 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds it goes back to my original position. Furthermore, that setup is also very interesting thing is we have our low look setup here, 30 dB or 36 dB. You can also select the cursor key here in front. Okay, let me make a short shot. This is my cursor key here, so you can also select a different function on that cursor key. Use that, for example, when I want to use the cursor key, you want to say switch on the bars, etc. You can do that. So you have lots of functionalities. So you have the camera process where your picture adjustment, for example, the details and how the details works in normal H or vertical area. So if you want to lift up the pictures, want to do more enhancement, you can use the details, your master black, your black stretch levels here, your knee levels, sensitivity, reaction, gamma settings. VDR function is wide dynamic range. This is important, especially when you use a different lens here. You do shooting in a museum, for example, and have a very bright object in the middle, in the center. Normally everything will be overshoot, so you can change the dynamic range of the camcorder, and you can make a nice shot in this dedicated light environment. We have our white balance setup, our color matrix here. The color gain can be adjusted. The color matrix is a function of a vivid or subdued. for the cinema-like style. And color game you can do changes. One important thing is on the LCD setup. When we go to the LCD setup, we have the shooting mode assistance here, which is of course the focus assist. You can have that on and off by the bottoms. You can have a blue selection, or if you have a problem with blue, you can change it to green or red. That's more or less standard. And of course zebra function on off. But more important, we have marker settings for the people who like to do film cinema style shooting. Of course, you have a lot of things here to change your aspect ratio on depending on which lens you select. You see you have a bunch of pre-settings here. Safety zone the same. Let's go out of marker setting, display setting. Display setting is very interesting for you when we go to the end. And here you find the gain settings. If you coming for the video section, I'm pretty sure you will leave the dB section, because you know what is plus 6 dB, minus 3 dB, or plus 12 dB, and it's fully understanding what's going on here. But if you're coming from the photo section, you never work with dBs, you're working with ISO. And here you can select, go in and select to ISO mode. And when I change to ISO mode and go out of the unit, you can see I get my information, and let me transfer myself into that screen. So here we are, and you can see here exactly, okay, this way you can select, you can see here, this is now ISO change. So, and if you change the gain or whatever, you change then the ISO mode on the camcorder. And let me go from the preset modus. Here we have our gain settings. So you can see I change my ISO here, and the ISO is depending on my gain settings. And when I press low looks, for example, I go to ISO 12,800, for example, which describes the sensitivity or the speed where the photographers will say. So that is your ISO indication. So quite easy for that mode. Okay, go back. Let me go in that here. Let me quickly jumped into that. Okay, here we are. So, and then let's go back again to that LCD setting. There's another one in the display settings, another one item. It's the indication of shutter. When you're coming from the video section, you normally calculate that shutter in 1/5 still, 1/60 still, etc. It's the seconds you do the setups. If you're doing film shots, you, normally in 24p mode, the guys don't calculate in seconds, they calculate in degrees. So you can change the indication of shutter from seconds to degrees, but this function is only available in the 24p and the 25p mode. And this is an interesting features which I show you tomorrow, which is also in combination with the lens, and I show you the map of that scanning mode. So again, this you see is gray. When I go down, it's gray, so it's not available in this mode. You have to change to 24p or 25p mode, then you can select the shutter indication from seconds to degrees. Well, what else is the AV settings here and the audio settings here. We can have an on-screen, which I have on right now. It's for you, the explanation here to show you the menu items. We can select our output SDI, HDMI plus SDI, or only HDMI. It is also selectable. Our resolution, which will go out, in this case 420p or a 40i, because I'm here in the 720p mode, but I can go to 1080p recording, of course, then we have 1080p output. We have also an SDI trigger mode, which can be switched off, maybe interesting for additional recording devices, like for example Atomos recorder, which you like to use at the back end. So then you can use the SDI trigger, or you can use the frame trigger. It's depending also on the external device, which trigger function you like to use. Aspect ratio could be set up, or a squeeze mode in case of SD. Audio setting is also important for the sensitivity. You remember we have external audio inputs, and you can, for example, if you have a microphone which is not so sensitive, you can change that. Standard is minus 50 dB, but it goes down to minus 62 dBs for the sensitivity, or less if that is not a microphone, is that a line signal. You can select up your reference audio level for minus 20 dB, minus 18 dB, minus 12 dBs, etc. And of course there are other modes like limiter modes for each channel. We have wind cut built in the audio channels here. We have also stereo enhancer when you use the internal microphones. We have a monitoring when you use your headphones. You can select up stereo, mix mode of the channels, or one channel only. We have an alarm signal on, and we have also a test tone on and off. That's in the audio selection. Well, also we have timecode in. It's a free run timecode presetting, a drop frame, etc. This is typical for a timecode generator, which is built in. Well, that's so far an overview, and let me quickly move a lens to that. And here I have a typical lens for that one, which is a full format lens, but it has an MFT mount and it's full manual operation. That's a typical lens which I want to use on that unit, and we move that on. And I want to give you a shot of this one because I'm talking about the bokeh effect, and I like to show you the expanded focus where is useful for that one. So okay, we have our ND filter on. Let's move the ND filter out. So our ND filter is out. You get an indication. So, and here we have the typical effects which you get. Okay, let me use that here on the. So. And this is, for example, a typical shot which you have here. The keyboard is sharp on certain items, and then can I move my focus in, and you can easily see how the focus is moving now to the background, to the display which you see in the background or in the foreground in a very small distance. And let me show you the picture here. You can see it's very small. I open here the camcorder. You can see it sitting here. The camcorder is directly in front here, and there is the monitor. You can see very small distance. With a normal video lens, or with a normal not the video lens, with a small sensor, you will not be able to do such shots. Of course, this is not a good example. Better is you do that real with persons. Sorry, I can do that here in that small room, but it gives you an impression what you can have with the bokeh effect, how you can work in kind of artist, or to create some dedicated image effect. But I want to come back about the focusing, and let me explain you the expanded focus, which could, in case you're working in 4K, could be interesting. And let me give a shot on the LCD screen, because this is only visible on the LCD screen. Okay, let me move that more in. Okay, I guess that's good. So you can see the original picture here right now in the background. And if you do the focusing here on the lens, I think you can follow up this one, and you see I'm not sharp here in the background, unsharp here, and here the details. But 4K, if I move, I'm still moving the lens, but maybe you don't see the difference, especially in such shot. If you press the focus assist mode, and focus assist mode is now on that front button here. So when I press this, you can see we have a zoom up on the image. So we have a zoom up on the image, and that allows me to have a better focus option. And I will remove that a little bit away. You want to be a better shot here. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I guess it's good enough. So again, let's move it back. So now we have full screen, and of course you can do the focusing. You can use the focus assist. When we switch on the focus assist, you know, it get everything blue, and I can see where my focusing is changing on the screen. You can see the blue lines here, and that's my sharpest point. But still, this is the focus assist, and when I switch it off, I can use also the expanded focus, which zooms up my image, And then I have a cursor key here, and I can select my screen part into the screen. This will be not recorded. This is only visible in the LCD or in the viewfinder. And then you have a close-up of the image, and you can see by yourself on the screen. You have a better focus position to use that to do your setups. Thank you very much for listening, and maybe see you tomorrow. Goodbye, and God bless you.